Good day, dear students. Let's begin our next lecture. Today, we are going to talk about compression. Compression. What is it? In translation, it means that the compressed version of a rendering. Shortening, it means compressing the length of the sentence, it means. Compression in simultaneous interpreting is actually possible. It has got certain degree and it saves and economizes time. It is labor-saving activity. Sometimes in simultaneous interpreting, there is no time for thinking. There is no time to use long texts, long phrases, long sentences. Here, compression is very important. Shortening of sentences is very important. Sometimes information should be dropped, but it's impossible to think about the speed, what to shorten. Sometimes they say it's impossible to use compression. Sometimes it's very useful in written translation. You can go back and you have to think. In oral speech, time is limited, and sometimes you have no control of using compression. But still, using compression in your speech will help you to follow after the speaker. It has got different levels: syllable level, word level, syntax, meaning, and situational compression. When we speak about syllabic compression, we can just shorten the long sentence words into the shorter one. That's called lowest level of compression. You have to use the words that have got fewer syllables than the source language. For example, let's wait for the next screen appearing on the screen. Syllabic level, they say, or would seem not to be very useful, they say, but still it economizes some seconds. For example, instead of negotiation, you have to use the word talks. Instead of the word courageous, you have to use the word brave, shorter syllables. Understandable, you can use as a clear, and so on. Гипопотам, but shorter is behemoth. Стремительный, you can use the word резкий. So you have to choose the words shorter, with a lower or with a fewer syllables. Here you can shorten your speech. Next one is lexical compression. Short, just a few words. If in syllable we just choose shorter word, in lexical compression we omit some words in the sentence, fewer words to express the same idea. Let's wait for the next slide coming, then we'll see some examples. We'll analyze some examples. Look, how did it come about? We can say it in two ways. Как это случилось? So you have to choose the first version in order to shorten your speech, in order to shorten your way. So, next one, если необходимо, if necessary. The second version is if it is necessary. So which one is shorter? Of course the first one. Here, translator should omit some kind of unnecessary words to omit to shorten the length of the sentence. Когда я был ребенком, еще ребенком, or in English, when I was a child, when a child, you omit some kind of words, unnecessary words, but you give the meaning. That is the word level of compression. And the next one, быть в состоянии боевой готовности. To be on the alert, to be on standby, to be in the state of combat readiness. So the first two sentences or phrases are shorter, and you may choose these ones. Substituting a single word for a word combination. You can use shortening or abbreviations. For example, United Nations can be used as a one. You used abbreviation instead of word combination. However, we can really consider a strategy aimed at expressing a concept with a few words as a labor-saving one. Wouldn't the opposite actually be true? That means, shouldn't we use longer sentences in order to give the whole meaning of the phrase in the target language? A few words as possible is in fact a very complex art. You may use the shorter words, but you have to give the meaning with the shortness. When we speak about physiological compression, we can say the following. The same physiological meaning just can be given with two physiological units, but the first one is shorter, the second one is longer. Now you see on the screen. There is no accounting for tests, and tests differ have the same meaning. На вкус и цвет товарищей нет, а вкус они спорят. The same meaning is given with different the sentence or phrases. So we can choose the shorter one. On these days can be used as a someday. On the other way around, you can use just reverse, and so on. You can use shorter cliches that have the same meaning. To make a mess of something, that means to mess up. It is a shorter version. To cut a long story short, it means in a nutshell. In brief, you can use the shorter one, the shorter version of this expression, meaning. On the screen you see the same виде деятельности activities. Встречи на высшем уровне summit. Малая народность minority, национальная принадлежность ethnicity. You can also see on the screen several versions of just compressions. Some words omitted, some articles are omitted, and some kind of words omitted, but the meaning is given. Across the globe, so simply globally. From theoretical point of view, in theory, or so simply theoretically. From practical point of view, you can use practically. So here you can compress, you can shorten, and you have to leave only the main idea of the sentence or phrase. One may suppose that, supposedly, as has been reported, reportedly. There are arguments that, arguably, and that the translators could choose the shorter one, the shorter way. When we speak about syntactical and syntactic compression, we can say the following. So here that means syntax, that means the sentences. How can we compress syntax? So if complicated sentences are given, you can use only one simple sentence that gives the meaning of the source language. You have to use simpler construction by breaking a complex sentences into several simpler ones. For example, look at the screen. Written words in yellow. You see the first one. Поддержка свободных выборов наносит вред стране. The second sentence, you can see the same, but the longer one. You can divide into several meaningful semantic segments, and you may give the meaning. You shouldn't use the long and complicated sentence in the target language during translation. With sentences of this type, we can divide them into several parts. When we speak about semantic compression, we can say the following. Let's wait for the next slide coming. Then we'll talk about semantic compression. Here you omit unnecessary information according to the meaning. It looks like it's a syntactic translation, compression. Here you omit unnecessary parts of the sentence. For example, завтра в столицу нашей родины, город Москву, прибывает делегация бизнесменов из Германии. Here, in this sentence, столицу нашей родины город is not necessary to render. Here, translators omitted and gave semantic meaning. When we speak about situational compression, here, translator shortens or uses compression concerned with situation. For example, during Olympic Games, when the representative of the country, Tanzania, entered the sport field, translator only announced the word Tanzania. He didn't introduce them fully, United Republic of Tanzania, because while saying Tanzania, it was clear that the representative of the country is entering. And because, why did he shorten? Why did he compress? Because he has to. Just gives a place, gives the floor to another speaker. And it was in a hurry. Situation was in a hurry. He announced as quickly as possible the representatives of Tanzania, and then he allowed his colleagues with different language step in. That's called situational compression. It saves our time, it economizes our time, and it is sometimes preferable, and it is advised by the experienced interpreters to use compression during simultaneous interpreting as well as during translation of cartoons and during movies, especially when there is no space on the screen. That's it for today. Thank you very much.